they say in the south of the United States is I'm doing peachy.
Peachy. What is peachy?
Peachy. Peachy like durazno, peach. Peachy, I don't know why. It's just something southern people in the southern United States are weird. Say weird things. Just like people in Honduras sometimes say weird things.
Yeah.
Como se me deja de sacas.
Se me deja de casacas.
Y hazme un café mejor.
Mm.
Okay.
You should say that, man. If you want, if you want
No,
to.
no, no, no.
Really.
I'm a smart man. I'm a smart man. Um, cool. So today, this meeting right here is just to talk about the different things that happened during the past sprint. How did it go? What worked well? What didn't work well? What can we improve on? Um, and that's it. So, why don't you guys start by telling me some of the good things that happened in this past sprint?
Okay, first, I believe this sprint we estimate very well because all the cars has done in time. Uh, Personally, I don't face any problem to accomplish the goals uh, of the sprint. Uh, for me, it was very interesting to work with log entries. In fact, I received a call from them yesterday. The customer service is very well. It's my impression. Uh, Also, it's very interesting to work with the Mailgun. I never working with that app. Just it's very easy to work, and with the modification in Starscream, all the projects in Auckland Avenue has a default implementation with Mailgun now. The Nugget package was very interesting. I believe we found a way to set up a common call in Auckland Avenue with the Nugget package.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that we worked it really well. Uh, Dante and I was was a really good job because I think that we accomplished every card and we didn't have any major problem doing that. Also was cool to learn something new like log entries. It's pretty cool know that you can have that kind of tracking of your application, and the main point I think is the estimation. I think that the estimation for every car was really good because um, we accomplished every goal, and we didn't have any major problem with any card. So for me, that's what we did good.
Excellent. Is there anything that we should discuss uh, that if we don't discuss it now, we might forget it? Something that we learned?
Personal, I don't have any in mind because for me this sprint was all perfect uh, since we accomplished all the goals in time. A ver.
Um, can you repeat the question? Just forgot it.
Yeah. Is there anything that we might forget if we don't discuss it now? Anything that we learned that we might need to document?
Um, I don't know if something like that, but certainly we need to maybe we need to discuss more deeply each card because we have one card in this sprint that really need to maybe to be split in two cards because we needed a refactor for that. So maybe that's the only point. In the future sprints, try to be more specific with each card, and try to understand if we're going to need another card for accomplish some task or something like that.
Oh, well, this is a good point. I forget. I believe Starscream needs a major role system to define each rights of users. This is a card that is not exists, but I believe it is important for all the project in Acklen because every system I see needs a role system, some kind, at least.
So that's something that we probably need to be adding to the backlog if it's not already there.
Yeah.
I can't remember whether it's already there or not. We'll take a look. But you're absolutely right. Like last night, when you guys were, of course, sleeping, I moved one of the cards back to rework, and it was just the card where you can see a list of users, and I moved it
Okay.
back. And I made a note just saying, hey, this just needs to be only for admins, even if we only add a boolean to the user is admin or something like that, that we know that we're going to refactor later, and that refactor later is, I'm guessing, that role system,
Yeah.
Yes,
because an is admin boolean on a user is horrible, not
yes.
useful.
No, it's not very appropriate. Not very scalable
That's
for
right.
all the systems.
Right. Okay. I'm kind of following a list of questions that are very good for sprint retrospectives, and the last question I asked was, um, is there anything that we did well that if we don't discuss, we might forget? And you guys mentioned a little bit ahead of some things from the other questions, so I'll go ahead and just ask the other questions, just to kind of be in the habit of asking these questions. And you might want to repeat anything that you said that might apply. So, what did we learn from this sprint? And when I say this sprint, I'm really talking about this sprint and like this week and the last week. So combining the past 2 weeks as one sprint. What did we learn?
Okay. From my side, I think that the use of logging it's pretty cool, and also that we need to have a nice workflow for the social logins. I think that we were doing that wrong in GitHub and also in this project, because we have a register button and also a login button, and it's not so user friendly as it should be. And I think that other thing that we learn is that we need if we make good estimations, we won't have any problem accomplish each card. And also that if we need that we should study or make a deeply uh, analysis of each card, and try to know if we are going to need to split it or something like that.
Dante, what do you think? What did we learn from this sprint?
Well, uh, the initial estimation was very optimistic because we have initially 4 developers. Uh, in the last sprint, we did around 80% of the cards. I believe the initial estimation was bad uh, because with 4 developers, uh, if we have 4 developers, we could done more. But in the end, we only have 2. Uh, um, I believe this in the another projects this is a major issue because uh, we still have learning how to estimate well. In project one, for example, in the first sprint it was the same issue because we estimate not not very accurate. This is the thing I believe we need to learn for the next projects. Estimate more accurate.
So we learned that we are pretty bad at estimating.
Yes.
Yeah, I will say that. And I think that is because maybe we only think in one part when are we doing that estimation. Like when you say a car, I only think in the front end, for example, and the other guy only think in the back end or something like that. Or for example, I remember in GitHub we were like 10 developers. Or I don't know. I don't really
For a
remember,
while.
10 or 8 developers. So everyone was thinking, oh man, this is going to be so fast. We don't have to even bother doing this kind of estimation. And at the end, we were only 3. So maybe that's the only thing that I would say that we need to improve.
Yeah, and that we should probably mention something about that. The one of the problems with internal projects is that the second a customer arrives and says, "I'm going to give you money to do this work," we end up having to take developers off of the non-paying projects and put them on the things that pay. So that's one problem with internal projects. They can be fun, but at the same time they can be frustrating because you might start out with 8 developers and then by the end of the sprint you're down to 1 or 2.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you pay, you say,
That's right, and it's good to be paid.
yeah.
Yeah.
What should we do differently in the next sprint?
Hmm. Well, from my point of view, uh, separate more granular the cards. For example, with the role system, we have a major point of many cards because many cards on deck says has admin, has a user. This is a dark card we have done quickly to advance in the next cards. This is, I believe, we need to do quickly. Javier?
Um, to be honest, I don't know what I could say. I think that everything went really well in this sprint. So maybe what Dante said, we need to make a deeply estimation of each card and know if we are going to split it or not. That's the only point.
Cool. One thing, and I'll say this to Dante's point. And actually, you both made this point at one point. Said that there were maybe a couple cards that we needed to split, and we've noticed that on some other cards too. We get into the sprint and we realize, oh crap, this card is much bigger than I thought. And I think that's going to happen. I don't think that that's completely avoidable all the time, but it is something that we should notice and maybe try to learn from. And my initial reaction is like solution is we should be asking more questions. In our sprint planning meetings, we need to be asking loads of questions before I put my estimate on a card. That's like my estimate. That's me saying if I were going to do this, this is how much time it will take me, and I want to be able to commit to that number, even though it's kind of imaginary. I want to be able to commit to that number, and I want, if I don't get that work done in that amount of time for those points, then I should feel something. I don't know if I should feel bad, but I should feel something, like I should feel let down with myself for not getting it done because I said it was going to take me this much time and took this much more. And so for me, when I'm estimating, I have that kind of going on in my head. So as I am estimating, I ask a ton of questions. I want to understand it from the beginning to the end. I want to find every possible gotcha, every possible Easter egg, and get to the bottom of all that. Even if sometimes the question's maybe a little bit obvious, sometimes I'll ask the question and I find that the answer is not what I thought. So I would say that during our sprint planning meetings, we all of us need to be asking a lot more questions, and we need to consider that estimate something that's very personal and something that you should feel good about standing behind. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do differently, and also kind of spread that to the rest of the team. I don't know whether it's normal in Honduran culture to ask a lot of questions and to really be inquisitive, but you guys are kind of countercultural in a lot of ways anyway. So if that's part of the culture, fight it, and be really, really inquisitive.
Yeah, you're right.
Do you think it's
You're right.
part of the culture at all, or is that just something that comes from timidness, shyness?
Um, in my case, I think that I do a lot of assumptions. So um, maybe I don't know if everyone think like that, but I try to do that. I try to do that. So maybe yeah, we need to ask a lot of things before saying a number or something like that.
Yes, for me too. I make many assumptions. Sometimes I inquire. Uh, I have to work on that for my part.
I think it might not be Honduran culture, it might be developer culture too. Because I know as a developer, I usually think that I know everything, uh, because I know a lot. I probably don't know everything, but when it comes to like a feature that a customer is wanting, I've probably done that feature 50 times, 100 times, and I already know what I would do if it were me, and so that might be one cause of making assumptions, is just you've done it before, you know what you would do, and you kind of assume that it is how you would do it, right? When I make assumptions, that's kind of what I base it on, is my own how I would do it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you're right. I think you guys are right. We make a lot of assumptions. We it's okay to make assumptions sometimes, but I think it comes back to bite us sometimes when we make too many assumptions. The questions that we have in our sprint planning meetings, they serve a few purposes. A, they help us get rid of the assumptions. B, they show interest. So if the client is listening to the sprint planning meeting, which a lot of times they could be because we record them, it shows interest. So it shows the client that our developers are interested, engaged with the project, and B, it makes the sprint planning a lot more interesting and fun to be a part of, because I've never been a part of a sprint planning meeting that was a lot of fun when there was just silence or it was just me talking. So I'm a big fan of questions. Like this one, here's the question. Let's see, we've already talked about what should we do differently next time. So what still puzzles us? Is there anything that that has us in a puzzle, in a que nos tiene en un rompecabezas?
You mean like something bad?
No, something about maybe even a feature about the project that we don't quite understand, that maybe we're still puzzled about, like our mind is working a puzzle.
Ah, okay. The only feature that I think is the role system. And we should. I think that it's a main feature of a boilerplate. I don't know any system without a role system or something like that. So we should complete that as soon as we can. I think it will be better for us and for everyone that want to use Starscream.
Okay. Dante, is there anything that's still puzzling us?
For me, the role system is a headache now because we don't have. It's a must to have in all the system in Apple Avenue. And I believe this is a reusable feature for all the systems we will build on based on Starscream because sooner or later every project will have to build, and if every project will have to build, uh, well, will be 100 role systems in each project.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I agree. Let's add that to the backlog for sure.
Okay.
All right. We're bringing this sprint retrospective to a close. You guys have anything else you want to say before we stop?
For me,
No.
no.
All right. Good call, guys.